What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So, as you may have seen from the title, today we're going to be talking about my top 10 favorite roller coasters that I've ridden so far. Currently, I've ridden 48 coasters from 12 different theme parks across the United States. Even though that does not seem like that great of a number compared to, let's say Logan from Coaster Kids or Taylor from Coaster Studios. If you guys know what that is, they're really good channels for coaster content, so I definitely go recommend watching them. But 48 for me is not really that bad. I definitely plan on riding more in the future. That is a guarantee, 100% for sure. But with high school and all that, I gotta kind of be there for that versus going and riding coasters, as well as financial stability and all that. But anyways, we're gonna be looking at the top 10 coasters out of that 48 that I think are the best coasters that I have ridden to this date. So with that being said, we're gonna get right into this video, starting with number 10. So starting off our countdown at number 10 is X-Flight, a B&M wing coaster located at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. This coaster has a max height of 120 feet, and it takes you through the course at a speed of 55 miles per hour while you zoom through 5 inversions on this 1 minute and 15-second ride. The whole reason why I put this at number 10 is because, as you'll see on this list, the coasters just get better from here. But this coaster does hold a spot in my heart because it was one of the first looping roller coasters that I ever rode back in 2016 on my first visit to Six Flags Great America. The first, of course, being Demon, which is located right next door to X-Flight. However, when I first rode this, I was beyond surprised at how incredible this ride was. I've ridden it probably at least 11 times. I don't know, it's probably a lot more than that since I visited at least the park 13 times since then. But I've loved this ride. It's super smooth. I love the inversions. My favorite inversion, of course, being that last one where you zoom right through the control tower and the hangar right here, actually. But the ride is just super fun. I don't know what much else to say about the ride other than it's a very nice, smooth B&M wing coaster, and if you ever have the chance to ride this, I definitely recommend riding this ride because it is one of the top rides at Six Flags Great America. Alright, so at number 9, we have another roller coaster from Six Flags Great America, this one being Batman the Ride. This was B&M's first inverted roller coaster, and let me just say, they definitely blew it out of the park with this ride. This ride is 105 feet tall with a speed of 56 miles per hour, and it takes you through another 5 inversions on this 1 minute and 45-second ride. Now I'm just going to say, back when I first rode this ride, I was pretty scared because my first time that I went in 2016, I went with a group of friends, and they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so passed out on this ride, and I got pretty scared because I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't been on huge looping coasters yet besides X-Flight. But so I skipped it on my first round, but let me just say, the second time I came back, I did it, and I was beyond impressed. This ride, if you talk to any coaster enthusiast, they'll say the inversions are snappy and the transitions are quick and fast-paced, and this compact layout really makes for a great roller coaster because if you know B&M inverts, they tend to be very intense, at least the older ones. New B&M is not as intense, but Batman, this one being the original one, definitely makes the top 9 on my list of top 10 roller coasters. Alright, so at number 8 we have Cheetah Hunt, an Intamin Blitz coaster located at Busch Gardens Tampa in Tampa Bay, Florida. This coaster has a total of 3 launches, as well as a max height of 102 feet, a drop of 130 feet, and 1 inversion through this course of the ride. The ride's top speed is 60 miles per hour, which is achieved on that second launch, as seen in the video right now. So back in my visit in 2018, this was one of the first rides I went on, and it was the first coaster that I saw once I entered the park. You can also see this out in the parking lot, but the main one there is Montu, obviously, and we'll get there soon. don't worry. But Cheetah Hunt, for me, was just an amazing ride, mostly because of that launch and like the top section with like the helixes, as seen in the video right now, which I'm getting really good timing on this, I don't know why. But I just enjoy this ride because of the fast pacing, and I like the layout. The layout's super long, and it goes out like on this like long stretch for a good amount of time. And I think if I had to choose a favorite part, it would be like that series of turns through the canyon. This ride, I don't know how Busch Gardens pulled it off, but like this ride is just really amazing. I know there's other people who say that this ride shouldn't be like top in the park, but I think it is because this ride just has so much to offer that a normal coaster wouldn't. Like the layout is just beyond incredible. You get some good pops of airtime on that first launch. Not first launch, the second launch, my bad. Once you get up to that helix, and that right after the third launch you get another pop of airtime. But all in all, Cheetah Hunt is a really good number 8 for this list. Now the on-ride experience may be amazing, but the off-ride experience is just as great. Cheetah Hunt passes through so many different areas of the park that you can just see it from multiple angles without having to leave the trails. My favorite angle is this right here on the sky ride, because you basically interact with Cheetah Hunt so many times and it makes it that much better. Next up on our list is Max Force, a SNS air compressed launch coaster located at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. This new for 2019 ride has a height of 175 feet, a top speed of 78, making this the fastest roller coaster I have been on so far, and it features 5 inversions during this 23-second ride. I rode this coaster back on my only visit back in 2019, and I rode it twice throughout the day. When we first got there, we were going to make it our first ride of the day, but it was facing some mechanical issues due to its early lifespan. So we decided to come back later in the day, and when we did, it was well worth it. This ride hauls. The launch is intense. If you've ever been on one of these launch coasters, you'll know what I'm talking about. The inversions were just as intense with nice whip, and the speed just sustained throughout the whole ride. This ride definitely makes it in the top 3 at Six Flags Great America. Taking the number 6 spot on our list is SheiKra, a B&M dive coaster located at Busch Gardens Tampa in Tampa Bay, Florida. This coaster has a max height of 200 feet and has a speed of 70 miles per hour with 1 inversion during this 2-minute and 20-second ride. Now, upon my first glance at this ride, I was like, am I ready for this? Like, at this point I was a huge coaster enthusiast, but like this just scared me. I got up to that top and just sat at that drop, and when it fell, I was just beyond full of excitement, but also like actually terrified. This ride may look terrifying, but it is. Like, I'll admit it is. But the overall layout, after you get off that first drop, it's a very smooth, incredible ride back to the station. You have 2 steep drops. You got the 90-degree one, obviously, and I'm not too sure how steep the second drop is, but that one's just as intense. Now, I have not ridden any other B&M dive coasters at this time, but I plan to. But I've heard that SheiKra is still one of the better ones, even though modern ones like Yukon Striker and Valraven have now made it out onto the list. However, my favorite part of this ride is definitely the splashdown. That part is the most satisfying to look at, and I just think this ride in general is one of the top rides at Busch Gardens. I don't know what much else to say about this ride other than it's super good, and if you're at Busch Gardens, you should try it. Up on our list is another coaster from Busch Gardens Tampa, this one being Kumba, a B&M sit-down coaster. Kumba has a top height of 143 feet, taking you on a journey at 60 miles per hour with 7 inversions during this 2-minute and 54-second ride. Now, I will admit, this was one of the rides I was looking most forward to on my trip to Busch Gardens back in 2018. I've seen so many photos of it on the internet and so many videos, and I was just like, I had to ride it for myself. When I got on that ride, I was just like, what am I in for? I already rode Montu earlier in the day, which is kind of the same thing. I would not say it is, because one is an invert, this one is obviously a sit down. However, I think this ride should definitely be like neck and neck with Montu, only because like they basically give you the same thing. However, Kumba just doesn't do it for me as much as Montu does. I know this is gonna be a little bit controversial, but my favorite part is right here, this 0G roll. You come out of your seat, but that for me was like the only good part. I know I'm gonna sound a little bit bad when I say this, but I mean, when I went on this ride, there was a rattle, and I did not like it as much. I know it's like an old school B&M, and like honestly, I'm not complaining at all. I hope they never tear this ride down. This ride is solid, but that rattle just kind of threw it off me just a little. But I'd have to ride it again. I got 3 rides that day, but I'd have to ride it again just for like a good measurement against Montu. Other than that, Kumba is an awesome ride, and I definitely recommend riding it. At our number 4 spot, we have Raging Bull, a B&M hypercoaster located at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. This ride has a drop of 208 feet, a speed of 74 miles per hour, and a duration of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This ride wasn't my first rodeo with a B&M hypercoaster. However, it was still one of my favorites. I've only ridden 2. I've ridden the original 2 actually, Apollo's Chariot and Raging Bull. Comparing the 2, I put Apollo's Chariot above this one, so you'll see that one later on the list. But let's talk Raging Bull. Raging Bull is such an incredible coaster. Front row, back row, whatever. It's not focused so much on airtime like the other B&M hypers, it's more focused on turns. However, those turns are very interesting. What I mean by that is, if you sit on one of the outside chairs and you go through one of the turns, if you know B&M hypercoasters, they have that shell restraint, and like on the turns, I don't know about like anyone else, but for me personally, when I go on those turns, I feel like I'm gonna like slide out because I'm so skinny. But I mean, this ride is just amazing. Like the airtime you get on some of the hills is really nice. I know a lot of people complain about the trim brake on that second hill, and yes, I'll say it does kill that momentum just a little bit. But if you really look at what this ride is focused on, it's not focused on airtime. So going through that, the ride itself is such an incredible ride, and it is definitely one of the top rides at Six Flags Great America. Also, in my experience, front row gives the most airtime. Here at our number 3 spot, we have Goliath, a Rocky Mountain construction ground-up wooden coaster, located at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. This ride has a drop of 180 feet, a speed of 72 miles per hour, 2 inversions during this 1 minute and 45 second ride. Now let me just say, there's a reason why this coaster is number 1 at Six Flags Great America. For one, you got that intimidating look as you walk up to this. 45-degree angle up, 85-degree drop. I don't even know. This ride is just crazy. My favorite spot on this ride, back row. On that first drop, you just get whipped out of your seat. The inversions are super fun. I keep my hands up the whole time, so you definitely feel like you're gonna just like slip out of your seat, but you know you're safe. I feel like, yes, this ride is short. I know there's other RMCs out there that are probably a lot better than this, but I have only ridden this one. So given that, I'm saying that like if this one is one of like the weaker RMCs, according to what I've heard from many coaster enthusiasts, I can't wait for what other ones hold. I know I'm excited to ride Steel Vengeance in the near future, which apparently is the best RMC at the moment. But for me, mostly, I want to ride Iron Gwazi, the new for 2020 RMC at Busch Gardens, Tampa. But all in all, I feel like Goliath at Six Flags is definitely the top coaster, and it's a top 3 coaster for me on my list. Just missing the number 1 spot, we have Montu, a B&M invert coaster located at Busch Gardens, Tampa in Tampa Bay, Florida. This coaster is 150 feet tall, takes you at a speed of 60 miles per hour through 7 inversions on this 3-minute ride. Personally, I think this is the number 1 coaster at Busch Gardens Tampa currently. I know Iron Gwazi will probably take that spot once it opens. But this is the first coaster that you see when you enter the park, and it gives you that welcome to Busch Gardens Tampa, we have the thrills of Florida kind of vibe. And I got on this ride, first ride that I went on, I just ran to it. And I got the whole train to myself, and this is actually the video of me on it. And I just thought this ride was intense. I've ridden Batman before, so I was like, okay, I think I know what I'm expecting. Oh no, I was totally wrong. Montu takes what Batman had, but amps it up so much. I think Montu, I just love the layout. It's super long and gives you a punch every turn you have. There's not a second where you just like have a second to breathe. I think this ride is my favorite invert coaster, and will probably be my favorite invert coaster for a while. I don't know if like Afterburn or Alpengeist will take that spot, but Montu just has that like appeal to me. Also, I really love the color scheme, so Montu has that going for it as well. At our number 1 spot, and currently my favorite roller coaster that I have ridden, we have Apollo's Chariot, a B&M hypercoaster located at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. This ride has a top height of 210 feet, taking you on the course at 73 miles per hour during this 2-minute and 15-second ride. I rode this coaster back in 2012 on my first and only visit to Busch Gardens Williamsburg at the time. When I went to this park, I saw this park in a pamphlet on our way down. We lived in Virginia for 4 months, and I was like, I just had to get to that park because this coaster was on the front cover. When I got to the park, I was super scared. I'm like, I've never ridden a roller coaster before. So we started off small with Grover's Alpine Express. We went through the day, didn't do a single coaster. Finally, nighttime came around, and I finally got the guts to go on this. So my first ride on Apollo's Chariot was a night ride, which I've heard is the best way to experience this ride. Now, the whole reason why this holds first place for me is, 1, it was my first real, like, intense roller coaster. I've never been on a coaster like this before, so I was, like, super, like, scared, but, like, this is the coaster that got me to be a coaster nerd, honestly. I think this ride takes the classic B&M look and just plays it out on every part and does it 100%. Like I was saying before, Raging Bull and Apollo's Chariot were the first 2 B&M hypercoasters built by B&M, so I've had the chance to ride both. And I feel like Apollo's Chariot is definitely better than Raging Bull. You definitely get a whole bunch of airtime, and that airtime is amazing from what I remember. And this ride was just one of my favorites, and I don't know, I think it's just because it was my first coaster. I hold it near and dear to my heart, so that's why I make it number 1. I know a lot of people think other B&M hypers are better. I have not ridden those, but that is what my list is at currently, so yeah.